strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. Pastoral scene of the gallant South, the bulging eyes and the twisted mouth, scent of magnolia, sweet and fresh. Then the sudden smell of burning flesh. Here is a fruit for the crows to pluck, for the rain to gather, for the for the sun to rise, for the tree to dry. Here is a strange and bitter
and nearby on the Ridgely Plantation, now the Hampton National Historic Site. We are honored to have among us descendants of those hardworking people, of both the enslaved and the free citizens who settled and still live in historic East Towson. Last year I shared the following lines from poet Joy Harjo of the Muskogee Creek Nation. It resounds perfectly with our purpose of acknowledgement and honoring of 15-year-old Howard Cooper. Quote, "Make sure the spirits of these lands are respected and treated with goodwill. The land is a being who remembers everything. You will have to answer to your children and their children and theirs. The red shimmer of remembering will compel you up the night to walk the perimeter of truth for understanding." On July 4th in 1885, Independence Day, citizens of Towson probably lined the streets of our community waving the stars and stripes in celebration of the nation's independence, just as residents did here last week, I imagine. Only 9 days later, in 1885, on this date, dozens of citizens, about the same number as we are here, as it turns out, dislodged the flagpole at the old courthouse on Washington Avenue up the hill, carried it down these streets, and used it to break into the jail. They then lynched 15-year-old Howard. 140 years later, we are here in the shade of what Joy Harjo calls the perimeter of truth for understanding. For the second time, we gather in the Truth and Community Remembrance Park, now marked by the beautiful new park sign down the hill on the street. Its naming aligns with Equal Justice Initiative's campaign for community remembrance. In a few minutes, we will unveil a unique second sign, an interpretive sign telling the story of the cruel and wholly unconstitutional harm done to resident Howard Cooper. A special thank you to Stephanie Robinson, who's here with her children, a descendant cousin of Howard Cooper. We appreciate that she's with us, that she will help us with the unveiling, and that she's going to give us some words today. We appreciate Senator Shelley Helderman of the 11th District, State Delegate Harry Bandari, District 8, Councilman Izzy Patoka, District 2, Councilman Mike Bertel, District 6, Associate Pastor Joel Strom of Towson Presbyterian Church, Delegate Nick Allen being here, and Delegate Kathy Forbes. We appreciate that you're here with us this evening. In your program, you'll find a list of folks involved in these art projects and this event.
Hello, my name is Stephanie. Many of you know I am the distant cousin and relative of Howard Cooper. In June of 2021, I subscribed to Ancestry.com just out of curiosity, just to learn more about my family's history. And after a quick search of my grandmother's side, I stumbled across a family tree that was made by Miss Jennifer Laus. So I reached out to her, didn't think anything was going to come of it, as she had did the tree about 5 years prior to that. So to my surprise, within a few hours, she actually did respond back and said that she was not a relative of mine. However, she was a part of the Maryland Lynching Project, and she was doing research into my family. And she was in connection with my Aunt Jeanette. However, she was not able to talk to her for a little bit, so I guess the research kind of paused until we linked up. And from there, I learned a little bit more about Howard Cooper, my grandfather's side, because I really didn't know too much about my grandfather's side of the family. So, crazy enough, 2 days after I researched into my family, the aunt that was researching and helping Miss Jennifer with the research into my family passed away. So, from there, I knew that my aunt was telling me that it was time for me to carry the torch and to continue on with learning about my family's legacy, so that my children and their future children will know about my family's history and know that where we came from. Now, while it is an honor that my ancestor is being recognized and being honored, it is a bittersweet moment for how he has to be remembered and how he has to be recognized. Nonetheless, I am forever grateful and thankful to not only Baltimore, but the Maryland Lynching Project for honoring him and giving a voice to those who are no longer with us. Learning about my cousin Howard kind of reminded me of hearing about Emmett Till's story. Another man of color who didn't get justice that most of, a lot of people see. And so it's just a reminder that while this happened in 1855, we're in 2025. And while we don't see people being lynched and hung from trees, we are seeing a lot of police brutality. We're seeing a lot of anger amongst people, a lot of people in high power abusing their power. So unfortunately, while Howard's not the first and he's not the last to suffer the same fate, we've seen the news stories, we've seen all the constant protesting, we've seen the tears, and we have dried the tears of families who have lost their loved ones due to the racism, the discrimination, by a group of people that deem themselves powerful enough to play God. So today, I want to honor and recognize not only Howard Cooper, but the many of Howards, the many of Emmett Tills, the many of Trayvon Martins, the Sandra Blands, the Breonna Taylors, that didn't get to live, that didn't get their voice heard. I'm sorry that your life was cut short. I'm sorry that the justice system failed you. So on behalf of myself and my family, we would like to extend our deepest gratitude and thanks to the Baltimore Lynching Project, to the Maryland Lynching Project, to President Amy Millen. She has been extremely instrumental in always including me and my family in the memorial services, always keeping us updated and including us. So in closing, I wanted to say, July 13th, 1885, and today is July 13th, 2025. Same game, just different players. It may never stop, but this right here is the start, giving a platform and a voice to those who have been silenced. So I want to say thank you to all who came out today, and may we continue to shed light on the injustices that we still face today. May Howard and everybody else's name continue to be honored. Thank you.
On July 13, 1885, just after midnight, dozens of men broke into the old Towson jail you see across the street. They dragged 15-year-old Howard Cooper from his cell and lynched him.
Months earlier, an all-white jury found Howard guilty of rape, though the alleged victim never testified that the crime had occurred. The jury deliberated for 1 minute. Without leaving the jury box, the Howard Cooper was sentenced to death.
The Reverend Dr. Harvey Johnson of the Union Baptist Church, spurred on by a group of black waiters, galvanized black leaders, parishioners, and the community to take action.
They were successful in raising money needed for an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court on the grounds that Howard Cooper's trial had violated his 14th Amendment right to due process of law.
When news spread that the funds for the appeal were raised, a mob of white men mobilized to commit murder.
The night before lawyers were to file the appeal, the mob seized a flagpole from the courthouse on Washington Avenue, marched past this very spot, battered in the door of the old jail, and dragged Howard Cooper out by the noose they had placed around his neck. They then lynched 15-year-old Howard Cooper from a nearby sycamore tree.
And I just was thinking about this Juneteenth when we were celebrating and talking with some people, and Stephanie covered a lot of it. Thank you for being here. There's still a lot of injustice today, and really the insult to injury about lynching is that nobody paid for what happened. Lynching was not a federal crime until a couple of years ago. So we were working on it here in the state, but then by the time we got around to doing that, then Biden took the action he took, and of course now it is a federal crime. But at the time it was not. So people didn't pay for what they did to Howard or to anybody else who was lynched. They could have used the laws on the books that said that assault was illegal, murder was illegal, but a lot of prosecutors didn't take those cases on if the victim was African American. So that's the truth of the matter. So the painful thing about today, even still today, is that nobody is paying for what happened. So the least we can do is be here right now doing this and memorializing what happened to Howard, saying his name, making him real. That's the least we can do. So I want to thank everybody here involved in this project. And I don't know everybody who's with the MLMP. Can you just raise your hand so I know who you are? I just want to say thank you. Yep. Thank you for what you do, for bringing awareness to Howard's story and to the other lynching victims that you've raised awareness about. I've learned from reading about the work that you've done. So I just want to say thank you for that. And even today, there's still lots of families. Stephanie's here as one, but there are lots of families who were not able to bury their loved ones. So they're somewhere in an unmarked grave, buried in some undignified way, and there's still generations and generations have had to live with that. So there's that. There's racial disparities that Stephanie told us about that still exist today. So we've got work to do in the legislature to try to right some of those wrongs to the extent that we can. You can never undo what happened. You can never make that right. But we have a responsibility to level the playing field as much as we possibly can. And so in the spirit of awareness, I want to make you aware that there was a bill that we passed in the House and in the Senate called the Maryland Reparations Commission. Has anybody heard about that? Most people. That commission, and I'm not here to promote it, I just want to make you aware of it. That commission will look at the issue of reparations for African Americans, and they will tell us if it's feasible to do, if it is, how we can do it. So it's not a reparations bill, it's just an opportunity to look at it and see if it is a feasible thing to do and how it can be done. However you feel about it, I want you to know that that's happening. Because if you're like me, you come to an event like this and you remember Howard, you remember the victims, and you ask, well, what can we do today to address the racial disparities that still exist? So we're working on it. We passed it. Where that stands today, the governor did veto it. And so there may be some action in a special session or next year, next session to override that. But just keep an eye on it. If you have questions about it, you can reach out to me. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say any of us. And we're happy to talk to you about it if you'd like more information. Wherever you stand, I just want you to know that that's happening. So remembering Howard today, all the other victims, the nameless victims, there were many, many more before 1885 when this happened. We were 20 years, slaves were free 20 years before this. So that's how you know that abolishing slavery was not the part where we could just say, taken care of. It wasn't. Injustices were still happening. Lynching was still happening. Injustices are still happening today. So there's a lot of work in this area to be done, and I want to do it in the honor and in the spirit of Howard and his family, like Stephanie, where she can look and say, well, I live in a better, well, you can say we live in a better state today, but there's more work to be done. And I want to keep that at the forefront. As we look back, I want to look forward at what we still need to do. Thank you.
Crossing Hillen Road. Two voices. Listen, I'll tell you a true story. I was in the library in search of stories about Towson, where I was raised, and I found a ring binder of news clippings. On the cover, somebody needs to tell this story. I read all the clippings in the binder, all about the historic Black neighborhoods of Baltimore County.
East Towson, the lyrical sound of familiar voices, the pantheon of faces I've known since before I had language to say their names. We were small, a village within a town of Towson. Once just a network of farms, now still longing to be more than it is. East Towson is as it was, a sleepy little, once upon a time community. A family of families where everybody knows everybody and everybody is related by blood or by marriage. A world within a world birthed by a horrific past.
Somebody needs to tell the story, but maybe not me. Yes, I was raised in Towson, but our house was a block from Old Hillen Road, a road that looked like every other road, though it was an important line, a border. I walked to school along Hillen. If I crossed that road, I could have walked through East Towson, a Black neighborhood, definitely not mine.
Outsiders wonder how we got here and what difference the distant past could possibly make today. How often have I heard them say, I didn't know there were Black people in Towson. But history creeps up, even on those deaf and blind to the signs of her impact, to the temporarily innocent and the factually insane. We're just derelicts who unwittingly found ourselves as volunteers who somehow made their way to the Americas to help out, to toil, to grind, hammer, nail, and wet nurse a new world to life.
I cross Old Hillen Road now. I hear the true stories of Black families who built houses to pass down, strong schools, churches, a corner store, a baseball diamond. So close, once upon a time, just across Old Hillen Road.
East Towson, her eyes heavy with fatigue, bears the scars of change that didn't have her little ones in mind, and many of the faces in the pantheon of my youth have fallen from her sunny skies. But East Towson is still a sleepy little, once upon a time community, still the land of pleasant living.
And somebody needs to
Tell this story, and somebody needs to listen. So, I'm supposed to tell you about the Road to Freedom Trail and what's been happening and about this fantastic park. So, let me just say a couple of things. I did actually write some things down. Because one of the things that's clear to me in this work, and please give me a time check, one of the things that's clear to me in this work is that you can't do it without friends. You can't do it without allies, colleagues, advocates, senators, delegates, heads of department, paper pushing, balancing budgets, and making stuff happen. So I may have come up with an idea called the Road to Freedom Trail, and may I just say, this may be the last time I ever get to say that, because it's no longer just my idea. It has a life of its own. It lives in the hearts and minds of many, many people throughout Towson and throughout this county, and dare I say, the nation, because plenty of people have reached out across various platforms to say that this is great work, they're admiring it, we're taking lessons from people, and they are doing the same with us. So I want to say that, just share with you some of the things that came to me in preparation for today. And the biggest one, I feel, is this scripture that says, the first, let me get it right down, I wrote it down. The last shall be first, and the first last. And I bring that up to share with you that the Howard Cooper Memorial and the Truth and Community Remembrance Park were the last features to be added to my list for the Road to Freedom Trail. The Road to Freedom Trail is a cycling and pedestrian trail that connects 13 sites of historical significance that tells the story of Hampton Plantation, now Hampton National Historic Park, to East Towson. And in a conversation with a friend and colleague in the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project, Linda Schultz, Linda says, "Where's the Howard Cooper Memorial?" And I'm like, oh my goodness, I hadn't thought about it, Linda. And so, not only did it kick off, not only did we add Howard Cooper's memorial, it went from being a trail to a cycling and pedestrian trail, because it really did connect. So once you get over to the church, the cemetery, you're coming right down the street to Howard Cooper, and then you make your way around to what was the Maryland-Pennsylvania Railroad. So it really does all seamlessly link up. And so what I want to say in sharing the updates is we are incredibly grateful for the friendship, the camaraderie, the love, and the respect that comes from being a part of the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project and the Baltimore County Lynching Memorial Project. I don't want to miss the opportunity to thank my partners and my friends of East Towson, Baltimore County government, an unlikely bedfellow, right? Goucher College, Towson University, Morgan State, Indivisible Towson, Blue Water Baltimore, as I said, the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project and the Baltimore County Lynching Memorial Project, and countless individual citizens of Towson and beyond who have gotten us to today. You cannot do a great work by yourself. You cannot, let me say that again. You can hardly do a small work by yourself, right? You cannot do a great work by yourself. And I am simply thankful, grateful for those of you who are here today and for those of you who are my friends, who live in my heart. We are writing a song. I'm writing a song for you, and you're writing a song for me. We are writing a beautiful future out of a very complicated past, and we are doing that with love. Thank you.
Here every weekend on our way to the bakery, and they never told me. Now I find myself looking, trying to see what I never thought was here, trying to see through glasses I never thought I'd wear. I'm 14 and we drive past here on our way to the store. We're always talking, we don't pay attention, they never told me. A century's worth of rain has washed the grass clean. So clean, the sun shines through and it has the audacity to look pretty. And after all this time, and all this rain, and all these tears, and after all the people here today, after all the progress, where are we? We've modernized our horror. Instead of whips, we carry guns. And I know there's nothing I can do except implore you to close your eyes and see the blood on the grass. Because no matter how much it rains, it hasn't washed away. Thank you.
A little over 7 years ago, Will Schwartz, founder of the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project, gathered with a small group of individuals outside the old jail, just behind me, and collected soil in memory of 15-year-old Howard Cooper. That soil is now part of a national display at the Legacy Museum in Montgomery, Alabama, as well as part of the Lynching in Maryland exhibit at the Lewis Museum in Baltimore. We also have a sample of the soil here, and you can come up and be at peace with it afterwards. What might feel like a small act, digging soil, is huge, and it has been repeated 15 additional times in 11 other Maryland counties. This coming together by community is a way of remembering the individuals who were murdered. It offers us a moment to pause. It is the act of naming the truth of an unjust history. It provides an opportunity to learn and to expand our collective awareness. The soil collection for Howard Cooper in 2018 served as the impetus for the founding of the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project, which is anchored by the drumbeat, Truth First. There must be truth before reconciliation, before healing, and before growth. The Maryland Lynching Memorial Project and the affiliated coalitions are involved in 14 of the 17 counties where a known lynching has occurred between 1854 and 1933. In addition to advocating for the public acknowledgement of the 38 lynching victims in Maryland, the Lynching Memorial Project and county coalitions have researched and documented the histories of these victims. The research is publicly accessible on our digital archives and has been included as part of the testimony at public hearings presented by the Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which is the only such commission in the country. The public hearing for Baltimore County was held in 2022, and the last hearing took place just this past February. The final report with recommendations is due to the governor in December and will be available to the public. Truth first. Baltimore County Lynching Memorial Project has embraced this mantra through research, the historic marker installation, partnering with the commission to host the public hearing, youth poetry exhibitions, supporting historic East Towson, addressing multi-year threats due to pressures from outsider development, and partnering with the Road to Freedom Trail that we just heard about are just a few of the examples of Truth First. 4 years ago, on May 8th, 2021, we gathered across the street for the dedication of the historic marker in recognition of Howard Cooper's murder 140 years ago today. I invite you to walk over there when we're done with today's ceremony and read the marker. That day was an important day. Of the many events that occurred and words spoken, a commitment was made by Baltimore County to support this coalition's effort to name this space such that it is reflective of our work, now called the Truth and Community Remembrance Park. It is really profoundly moving to stand here today on this hallowed ground, on this soil, to reflect upon that horrible night, to think about 15-year-old Howard Cooper and his mother, who was not more than a couple blocks away, and to know however much work we have done, we still have so much work to do. So may this space serve as a balm for those seeking solace, for those looking for clarity, and for our community to continue to grow together through remembrance. Today, as evening settles upon us, I invite you to commit to extending the work of truth-telling and community remembrance by identifying one actionable step that will create a ripple towards reconciliation and a more just tomorrow. Truth first.
Down by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like that river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know the change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long